Welcome everyone to the Finance Committee meeting. It is March 18th, 2024. Before I begin, just a public service announcement. As some may know, there are power interruptions in Strathroy today, so here we're running on generator power. So to those of you who may be watching us virtually, if we go dark, for lack of a better word, for a while, we will try to fix it. We will recess and then reconvene. So just be forewarned about the power. Roll call, everyone's here other than Councillor Kennis, who is absent. Are there any declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we have a motion that the March 18th, 2024 Finance Committee meeting agenda be approved as circulated. Councillor Hippel, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Before we begin, let's start with a motion that the Finance Committee receives for information report FIN 2024-09 proposed 2024-2027 multi-year budget update. Motion to receive the budget. Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Brennan. All in favor? Carried. I think at this time I'm going to turn it over to, sorry.
I just had a question.
Yep, sorry, turn on the mic there, Bo.
Sorry, I just had a question on that. I thought we were just doing a single year at this point.
So I noted the same things. When we get down to the final motion, I'd highlighted to ask the same question. We make the motion to accept, so I had the same question. Turn it over to Director Dakin. Before again, Director Dakin, there was some comment, and I asked you this morning about and thank you for the tax rate. It's the difference between the 4% on the tax rate and then, you know, the operating budget increase. So we talked about that, so I'm going to turn it over to you, Director.
Thank you. Through the chair to the committee. Maybe the best bet is I'll just address that. So the mayor was in my office this morning and just had a question about the difference between the tax rate and the levy rate, and then also the increase in the budget. So if I can call your attention to the first page of the preliminary operating budget. It's along with all the different departments listed and consolidated on there. So you'll notice at the top of the page in yellow is a tax rate increase, which is now sitting at 3.77%. So that is what an individual ratepayer would recognize on their increase in property taxes. So that equates to around $27.77 around there over the year over year. Below that, you'll see the tax levy increase, which is 10%. And then there's also an increase in the operating, we'll call it revenue, which is non-tax, and that's increasing by 4%. If you slide all the way down to the bottom of the page, you'll see a 7% increase there, and that is the increase in the actual budget. So really looks at expense over budget year expenses. So that's going up by just over 3 million, which is a 7%. So just so that we're talking all same numbers, those numbers appear.
Thank you. Any questions? Go with Councillor Wilsey.
Yeah, my question was just in regards to the motion I made last meeting to come back with this. What I actually had asked for and what was approved by council was a 4% budget increase with a 2% tax levy. Doesn't look like we met that.
Good question. So, go ahead, Director, and then I mentioned. Yeah.
So through yourself to Councillor Wilsey, so the only motion that I'm aware of that was passed by council was one that was quoted in the report, which staff be directed, and that came from the February 26th meeting. If I missed a motion, then obviously that's on me, but the motion that I understood that was the one from the 26th meeting, which was moved by the mayor, seconded by the deputy mayor for the 4%. So that was what I was working under, but if there was another one.
Yeah, no, that was the correct motion, but just we clarified shortly after that verbally, and it must not have been recorded properly, that it was a 4% increase to the budget, which would have worked out to a 2% tax rate levy. And if I'm wrong, it didn't get passed, whatever, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. But just also, just to chime in though, and to Councillor Wilsey, we moved the debt portion in though, correct? So could you, if we were to take the debt portion, because we started to put in the debt payments that we may not even realize this year, correct? So, but that put a substantial hit on it.
Yeah, so if you look at that sheet that we were just discussing with all the different increases on it, you'll see that our debt has gone up by 134%. So that's including, and I did include in the package for today the estimated debt repayment schedule, which ties to those numbers for the 2024. So in 2023, our estimated debt payments were about $837,000, and in 2024, those debt payments estimated will be, or proposed will be, 1.9 million. So that's a major part of the increase.
So I'm sorry, I turn over to council, but if you're to take out that $1 million out of the operating budget, that would substantially.
Well, we would still have close to at least 800.
Right.
So we take out about $1.1 million.
Yes.
But some of that we will, but I think it's prudent to show those numbers simply because we're gonna incur them either now or in 2025 or 2026, depending on when the projects move forward.
Okay. Any questions? Councillor Palkman.
Yes, thank you. So I am looking at the list of things that were taken out to achieve the 3.77%. And seeing as that the goal was 4, I'm just wondering if we can slide back in the money for the conferences and conventions for the staff, because the landscape is changing quite rapidly in Ontario. And I think it would behoove us to make sure that if they want to go to a conference to find out what is happening in the rest of the province and how other municipalities are dealing with issues, that we would want them to go and be up to date. There's not really a whole lot of money there. I think there's 26. $56,000 in total. So I'll make that a motion that we put that back in.
Do we have a second? Councillor Brennan. No, I should know the procedures myself, Councillor. I was gonna ask before we vote on that one, because I was gonna ask to, seeing we're at 3.7, and I asked Director Lilmore on this about Park in Campbellville. We can park, lack of a better word, some dollars to create a park in Campbellville. We have the land, and I think Director Lilmore may correct me. We put initial dollars in to clear some trees, but what would it cost to complete the park in Campbellville?
So out of our operating budget, we've got a open spaces consultant that will be utilizing to design the park, as well as our tree budget will allow us to clear some of the area to build the park. The challenge in that area is I'm not exactly sure what type of playground we'll put in, but we're talking probably $300,000, $250,000 to $300,000 by the time we're said and done, because we're gonna have fencing down 3 sides, potentially 4, depending on what the condition of the park or the property is further back. I know it's quite swampy, so I'm not sure we want kids running through there. So a lot of it will depend on what comes back from the consultants.
So it might not even be a this year project, correct, Director, by the time? It
Yeah.
may be a next year capital.
Yeah, by the time we get the designs back from the landscape architect and all of that, and then the lot cleared, we wouldn't be doing construction until 2025 anyway.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's fine. We're still on the motion that Councillor Palmer, so go ahead, Donna.
Just a question about Campbellville, are we still talking
No,
about
I
that?
said, yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
Because we're still on Councillor Palmer's motion, but I was gonna see if I
Okay.
could add on to it.
just how many people live there, and is it not backing onto a conservation area?
Population, I'm not sure of at the moment. No, it does not back onto a conservation area.
Yeah, Councillor Brennan.
In the spirit of adding on to Councillor Feltman's motion, seeing as the Campbellville project may be something for next year, and given that I was away for a bit, missed a meeting or two, can I ask if we're still considering sidewalks in Melbourne and what the expense of that would be to add them back in for this year?
Without Director here, do you have that on the capital budget?
So through the chair, I think the decision on sidewalks currently sits at 120,000 in the budget. So I'm not sure, there's a report, my understanding is there's a report coming back to council with what sidewalks are being done. So we can parlay that message off to the Works Department to make sure that there are some sidewalks in Melbourne if that's the desire of council.
Just to follow up.
Yeah, Councillor Brennan.
Just to follow up, I guess my reasoning is that when I take a look at the overall budget, it seems that a great deal of work is being done in Ward 1, and if we're not moving ahead with that Campbellville Park in Ward 2, I think it would be nice to try and get something in Ward 2 that's been sitting there for years, and we've talked about it many times, and quite frankly, I think if we're looking at 3.77, that's substantially lower than many of the municipalities around us right now, and I think it would be probably a good idea to throw something like that in. Also, having a slightly higher increase is going to help this council in years 3 and 4 of the mandate.
Councillor Wilson and Councillor Hippel.
Just a comment, if we're at 3.77, but that is only the municipal portion, there's still the county and everything else go up beyond that, so just for people listening, we're not talking about a 3.77% increase, that's your increase from this council, and then there will be a further increase from county likely as well.
Comment, Councillor Hippel. Did you have your hand up? I'm sorry, I thought I saw that.
I did, thank you. Honestly, I was just gonna comment on Councillor Brennan's comment. As I was reading through it, I also did notice that we've been doing, and this isn't saying that there's anything wrong with all the improvements and all the things that we're doing in Ward 1. I mean, because we as a municipality are one, but at the same time, there's so many pieces of this municipality that are important. And I feel like we haven't done anything in Ward 2, so I would just say it was nice that Councillor Brennan brought that up, because I was a little worried just to see so much going on in Ward 1 and very little, if anything, in Ward 2. So I'm not giving anyone heck for that. I was just observing the same thing.
Any other comments? I'm just gonna ask, I'm hesitant to say it because it is Melbourne. Councillor Pelkman, would you accept the friendly amendment that on to your motion to add $100,000 for sidewalks in Ward? I'm gonna say in Ward 2 where necessary, doesn't need to be Melbourne, but I think investment in sidewalks in Ward 2 would be.
So you're adding an additional $100,000 to the 120 that's already in the budget?
Yes.
Okay, sure.
Okay, do you accept that? Okay. Any other questions? Okay, sorry.
May I read the motion?
Sure, you may.
I'm just finalizing the second piece. Through the chair to members, so the initial motion I have moved by councillors Pelkman and Brennan that money removed from the staff conferences and conventions budget line be reallocated back into the 2024 budget in the amount of $56,000.
That was a quick adding in my head, but
Yeah.
yeah, I believe there's 3 lines identified in the removals, what they took out, so. But
Okay.
I think that's enough, you can divide that up however you want, that allows staff to attend conferences.
And then to add on to the friendly amendment and further that $100,000 be added to the sidewalk budget line for investment in Ward 2.
Yes. Good. Other questions? Deputy Mayor.
Through you, your worship, to the Director of Finance. So adding in let's say round it, $160,000, and am I clear that a 1% tax increase is around the $200,000 mark? So we're looking at like a 0.8% tax increase on this motion?
Through the chair to the deputy mayor, I would say you're correct. I can actually do the calculation here and find out exactly what the 156,000 would equate to in the new number. I guess, yep, I'll do that.
Well, that's for you to say, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. As he says, take your time. Any other questions? Did you want that answered before the vote, Deputy? You asked a question.
Well, I think with the Director of Finance telling me that roughly 0.8% is where we are,
Yeah.
I'm satisfied with that.
Okay.
But there's others in this room that are far better at math than I. Councillor Wilsey.
Okay. Seeing no further questions, we have a second of motion. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. So, see where we're at. Are there any other further questions, comments, concerns from council regarding the budget? Councillor Wilsey.
Just a general comment, and looking through it, with what we've done over the last few years of budget, we've kept our capital expenses the same. So every increase and tax rate increase that we've gone on has really just been operational spending. We haven't included headcount this year, so what we're adding on is really just paying more money for the same staff. We're not increasing our service, we're not doing a better job of serving the residents. It's just what our current cost is. And if we're going to continue to letting our operations increase without increasing capital, we're gonna get further and further behind. We have a deficit on our asset management plan. We have lots of projects we haven't done. We're just getting farther and farther behind, and I think if we're gonna continue down this path, we're not gonna be going the right direction. We're taking out reserve payments, we're drawing down our reserves, we're not adding to them, and we're still not getting our projects done. We are not on the right path to be financially viable past this.
Any other, Deputy Mayor?
Just in response to Councillor Wilsey's comment about the county portion, and yes, that's yet to be determined, but with our budget discussions at that table, I think they're probably in about line where we are here. So you're not going to see anything huge, you're not going to see anything super low, probably right around where we are.
Actually, Deputy, just a little bit less than where we are. Yeah.
Potentially.
Potentially. Councillor Kennis and Councillor Palmer.
I too have been absent for a while, and I will say that I would support what has been done to this point. I'm concerned, I guess I take an opposite view of Councillor Wilsey. I'm concerned a lot of the cuts made out of especially Director Lilburn's area in providing services to the community. We have a growing community with growing expectations, and so I think we have to keep that in mind as we move into the future. That being said, I'm not raising any opposition to where we're at today. I think what's being proposed is fair. I look at it as and continue to look at this as a growing positive community. We see shovels in the ground building new houses today already. in early March, and so I'm very positive about things to come. And we kicked things down the road for years, and we need to provide these things for our residents now and in the future. And so I'm fully prepared to support the budget with the latest amendment made to it for the coming year.
Any other comments? Councilor Palmer.
I was just going to add a comment to Councillor Wilsey's comments that, we're going in the wrong direction. It's come up several times that we are not alone in this problem, that, all municipalities are feeling the struggle with the lack of infrastructure money coming from the province, and the increased demand because of expanding communities. We do have some tough decisions to make, but I don't think that we're making them irresponsibly. I think we're trying to be as responsible as we can in a very difficult situation. I think tonight there's probably more correspondence tonight from other municipalities complaining to different levels of government that this is a really serious problem that we're all facing, and we need some support.
Okay, we're gonna go to Councilor Brett. I'll come back to you, Councilor Wilsey.
So, as I was doing some research for tonight's meeting, I came across the Middlesex Center's organizational review, which was, I think, done last year, so it's not that old. And in Appendix E, they had the financial characteristics of what they would list as their comparators. And they drilled it down to, in one of the columns, operational cost per household. And we are way on the lower end of cost per household compared to the list of comparators. So in this chart, Strathroy-Caradoc is listed as $2,460 cost per household. Thames Center is $2,600. Middlesex Center is $3,206. Essex would be $3,209. The only ones that are lower, Uxbridge is lower, which have a much higher density, and then some really small municipalities that I don't recognize. But I mean, cost per household, we're still doing really well. And I've always said that people need to be able to depend on a consistent consistency in their tax bills, and I think to undercut the rate of inflation substantially would be doing just ourselves a disservice, because that means that a year or two down the road we're having a great big tax increase that people are going to have a hard time managing. So I'm quite comfortable with the tax increase that we're proposing tonight.
Yeah, and I'm going to turn it over to Councilor. Just going to echo, that's the issue in the City of London right now. They had years of 0, 0, 1. That's one of the reasons now they have the huge tax increase in London. Councilor Wilsey.
So, just listening to the comments about what I said, I feel like what I said was maybe not heard properly. What I said is that our budget is continuing to increase only from our operational expenses, not from our capital. I didn't say that we were cutting capital, that we weren't spending enough capital. I believe we actually should be spending much more capital. The issue is with our operations going up, the percentage of our budget going to capital or going to operations continues to increase. If that happens and inflation goes up, we will have less and less money and can do less and less projects in capital. So even though we're doing tax increases, they're only going towards operations. Even though anything we're spending on capital, we're losing to inflation. And just if we look at how our budget's going up on our tax rate to talk about keeping it in line with inflation, we are talking about a 10% budget increase. Even though that's a smaller levy increase, it's a 10% operations budget, which is more than double inflation. So if we're going to talk about comparing our numbers to inflation, we should talk about our actual budget increase, not the pared down number that's just part of the overall tax rate because we're combined with other municipalities. Just numbers.
Yep, fair enough. Councilor Derbyshire.
Thank you. I'm just gonna chime in for 1 minute here. And
Nope.
I only look at it from a business farming side of it as to how we kind of operate, stuff like that. So I could be completely wrong on the municipal side of things. Maybe the goal is to make sure that your service provided is so great that the stuff, like, I guess when I look at it, when I look at purchasing a new combine, and I'm just gonna break it down simply for myself, if I don't have the acres, then I don't need the combine. And if I don't have the acres, I don't get the guy to drive the grain buggy either. Like, I think what we have to make sure is that we aren't over-labored for what we have here. Maybe we've hit a point now where we have enough and we need to actually build, expand, and make ourselves bigger from a tax base that brings us more revenue and less cost, i.e. industrial, commercial, that side of things. Whereas I know the provinces wanted houses, they want houses, I get it. But houses really cost us money. I know initially we get, yep, our DCs and this and that, but you know, we're hiring 2 more roads guys and a couple more this guy. And we need, you know, to expand our parks and this and that, which we could do if we had a larger section of, you know, what we used to call the golden goose, which was farmland that required very little services and this and that. But when you look at our industrial land, it's only $824,000 out of our budget. Like, that's not very much as you want to put, like, a very low service. It needs very low service, but yet generates a lot of tax revenue. It's somewhat like farmland, but farmland is $924,000, which is actually more than the industrial side of it. If you look at that comparative and you say, okay, if all things being equal, if the population of Strathroy needed to carry that much of this industrial, what would it actually need to kind of help carry itself if it were its own town? And I'm not trying to break us down and split us up. I'm just, if you looked at it from that standpoint, your industry maybe needs to bring in $3 to $4 million to offset a lot of your servicing costs. Whereas if you look to the Ward 2 side of things, our 900,000 on our 7,000 residents, that might be able to support police, fire, and service that's needed out here that doesn't generate revenue. Now that was a big long thing to say. I just think we need to look at things that are going to generate us revenue and not just what makes people kind of happy and satisfied.
Yeah, we'll go to the deputy mayor, then we'll bring it. And actually, I agree with a lot of what you said, folks. I asked one quick question to Director Huff. Multi-residential, is it 1.25 the tax rate? So there's, I don't know, Bill, Daking, but in housing, right? That's why you want multi-residential or
So,
the tax rate.
again, in its infinite wisdom, the province has reduced the tax rate on multi-res that, to accommodate for more multi-res to be built. So you pay exactly the same as you would on a single-family home.
There you go, the change. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
So I mean, we're fortunate, I guess, that, I don't know, unfortunate that we sit at county council, we get to hear this kind of from multiple points of view, but I just want to let you know that, I mean, all of the municipalities are struggling with the same thing, and if you're really bored someday and you want to listen to the last county council meeting, because I'm not going to take you all through it, but we had quite a large budget discussion, and at length, it dealt with exactly what we're speaking about here. And one of the comments made to us by the CAO at the county was the need for infrastructure and assessment diversification, and that historically we were reliant, and I'm talking about the county, but I think it's the same for us, we're reliant upon a residential tax assessment, and that the property tax base is simply not designed ever to fund what it is we're currently trying to fund. So we have to start thinking outside of the box. So I hear this from Councillor Wilsey and Councillor Kennis and Councillor Pelkman and the two councillors sitting to my left here, that really that's what we're talking about, is looking outside the box. And so these discussions are happening elsewhere, and like I say, if that's something that you're interested in, it was a lengthy discussion. It was very specific. It was very well led through. So that There's nothing new for the communities in the county and in the province to be having exactly this discussion, so.
Okay, I'm going to, Councilor Kennis, then we will bring it to a motion.
Sorry, now I have to talk that I'm back. So, I think one thing I think we have to keep in mind is that there are no municipalities that are just commercial, they're with no residents, and I expect, and I think I've heard this from our economic development people before, that one of the things that businesses look at when they're looking to relocate or locate in a community is, are there workers available within that community to staff that operation? So I think it goes hand in hand. I think and again, maybe I'm pie in the sky, too positive, but I really look at us as a really balanced municipality. We have industrial growth, we have residential growth, and we have a great, strong farm sector as well, so agricultural sector. So I think, maybe I'm too positive. Maybe I've been on holidays too long and it came back too positive. But I think there's a lot going on here that's positive that we need to be happy about and keep moving this thing forward.
Okay. Well, I'm going to bring the motion. So the motion as it's written, I'm going to answer Councillor Derbyshire's question from the start about the multi-year. And I'll leave it up to council, but the motion that is in front of us, the Finance Committee recommends the proposed 2024-2027 multi-year budget for council approval at the April 2nd, 2024 council meeting, where the 2024 year is approved and the 2025, 2026, and 2027 will be approved in principle. I just say I have a problem with the 2025 and 2026, 2027 verbiage because we really haven't talked about it. So to put it in front of that, we approve it in principle. So with your permission, I'm just going to bring a motion that Finance Committee recommends the proposed 2024 budget for council approval at the April 2nd, 2024 council meeting, where the 2024 year is approved. So I'll bring that motion. Someone to second. Deputy Mayor, any questions, comments? Councillor Kennis.
I'm fine with that. I just think that, and I agree that we need to perhaps spend more time on those future year budgets, but that they don't get tossed to the side for a long period of time, that we get back on those and work on those things throughout the year.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, we have a second motion in front of us. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. So I'm going to thank everyone, staff, CAO, and council for persevering to get through this. And we will start. I've had questions asked me, will we start earlier? And we will start earlier. We will get the multi-year budget done in time for January of 2025. But I want to say I appreciate everybody's patience and hard work and the long meeting. So thank you. So with that being said, let's see that the Finance Committee received report CS.
Doesn't matter, we already approved.
Point for information.
Okay, so we need to bring that, okay. But the Finance Committee received report CS 2024-15, February 26, 2024, committee motion updates for information. Motion to receive for information. Councilor Brennan, second by Councilor Kennis. Are there any questions on that report? Councilor Brennan.
Just a housekeeping item. I think the Director of Finance has that number for us that he said he was going to calculate.
Okay.
So the new increase is 4.47%, which is $32.95 per hundred, or using in the report, the $400,000 house would see a $132,000 increase.
132,000 or 132?
$132, sir.
A lot of people just call it, Director. So be included.
I wanted to make up for that capital work that we're both doing.
Okay, thank you. Were there any questions about the report, or anyone have any updates? All in favor of receiving the report? Opposed, if any? Carried. So the next meeting will be at the call of the chair. Motion to adjourn. Deputy Mayor, second by Councilor Kennis. All in favor? Carried. adjourn at 4:35. See everyone at 6 p.m.
6 p.m.